This episode, we speak with Sharon Chiarella, Vice President of Amazon's Mechanical Turk Crowdsourcing Marketplace. We shot this interview at the Crowdopolis conference in LA and would like to say thanks to the team at the Daily Crowdsource for organizing this event and for the help they extended to us. Remember, you never have to miss a single episode if you take a few seconds now to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, thanks for joining us.
Mechanical Turk is a marketplace for work, and it basically allows businesses to find workers who are willing to do their tasks, and it allows workers to select from a very wide variety of tasks that they want to complete. The name is actually a historical reference to a 18th century chess playing device, and it was touted as a device that a computer, if you will, that would play chess and could beat the above average chess player. In fact, there was a chess player hidden inside the device, and so you were actually not playing against a computer of the 18th century, you were playing against a person. So it kind of evokes the notion that from a programming standpoint, when developers put work into Mechanical Turk, they're talking to a computer. But inside that computer, or on the other end of that computer, is really a person who's doing the task, and that's where the name kind of comes from.
When people think of Amazon.com, I think most people think of buying something online. Why did Amazon launch a crowdsourcing service?
Well, I think first and foremost, Mechanical Turk is a marketplace. And so if you really think about Amazon, we run a great retail marketplace, and that's how most of people think of us. But Amazon Mechanical Turk is a marketplace for work. So it really isn't that far afield if you think about it as a marketplace. But why did we get into this? Really, it goes back to our retail business. There were things that we needed to do in our retail business. For instance, we need to clean a catalog of 500 million plus products. And we get that database of products from lots of different sources. And we have to really understand when we have duplicates in there. We have to make sure we have the right attributes, that things are categorized properly, so we can create a great experience on our retail website. And our technology could do part of that, but it couldn't get it 99% clean. So we really needed people. And we built Mechanical Turk as a way to distribute work very broadly to people. And we do continue to use it today to run the core business.
So if I go to Amazon.com and I'm looking at something in the store, the reason why all that looks well presented and makes sense is because you've applied crowdsourcing?
Right. So what we do when we get products into our database, we need to know, is this Canon digital SLR camera kit, or is it the individual camera, and which model is it? We want to present one product to you. Here's the product that you can buy, and here are 20 sellers you can get it from, and here's all their different price points. And in order to do that, we need people to look at, not all of them, but some of them, and help us figure out, is this the same? Because every manufacturer and every seller in our third-party seller program actually might refer to that camera differently. So we really need to understand that. And we use it in other ways as well. As we use Mechanical Turk to help us perfect and improve our search algorithms so that we can have better, more relevant search results every time someone comes and searches on the website. So there's a number of ways that Mechanical Turk is actually used to create a better experience within the Amazon.com retail site. Workers are basically consumers, and we have workers in 190 different countries around the world, over 500,000 workers who participate in the site. And they come in and they browse through a catalog and decide, is there work that I want to do? And some of them specialize in, I only do transcription work, or I really like to do image moderation. Requesters or businesses come in to Mechanical Turk and they can place work into the system, and they might have a one-time job. For instance, if you wanted someone to transcribe this video, you could ask someone on Mechanical Turk to transcribe the video, and we see that a lot for people who are doing they want to do search tagging so that their video comes up in search results.
Do you see applications for crowdsourcing, let's say, for the everyday person or for a small business or for a nonprofit? Is there one?
There absolutely is one. We see it all the time. So for a nonprofit, for instance, I can tell you that we had a site that really collects ancestry data. and genealogy data, and wanted to have help with what I'll call human OCR, right? They had scanned images, but they needed to translate them so that they're searchable. That's one example. We see small businesses all the time, and not just startups too. We also see small businesses that have back office paperwork. For instance, they scan in a bunch of their expenses for tax purposes, and they just want someone to transcribe them. And then individuals, absolutely. I would say one of the biggest things that individuals use Mechanical Turk for is fact-finding and research. It might be you're thinking about a destination you want to travel to, and you want someone to do all the legwork about, what time of year should I go, or in fact, Oprah Winfrey was doing an interview with Jeff Bezos, and one of the comments she said, because she was using Mechanical Turk, and she said, I asked, what is the best time of year to go to North Carolina and see the foliage this year, right? I mean, a generic website will tell you when it is generally, but when you want to know this year, like where are we on peak foliage, and she was able to get an answer from somebody who did the research for her on the internet. So, very simple example.
How would I go about doing that? Could you walk me through the process?
Sure. So we have two interfaces. One is a website, which obviously is a user experience for a non-technical person, and you literally can type a question and say, I'm willing to pay 5 cents for this, I'm willing to pay 50 cents for this, I'm willing to pay $5 for this, whatever it is. You set your price. And you also can say, I want workers who are in the U.S. or workers who speak this language, or whatever your requirements are from workers. And that will actually get published into a catalog, if you will, for workers to browse. And they decide, well, gee, I want to work on this piece of work. And they'll submit an answer, and you get to look at that answer and decide whether or not you're happy with it, and then make payment. The other interface is a technical interface, and that's really used by people who have high-scale jobs that they want to do. So in the case of Amazon, for instance, when we're cleaning products in our database, we use the programming interface because we need to upload millions of items to be looked at. And they're all, we give them to individual workers, can pick them up individually, which allows them to work in parallel. But obviously, having someone do that in a web interface doesn't really make sense. So I think the way workers benefit from crowdsourcing is that they have a broad selection of work that they didn't have access to previously. And workers are really able to decide what they want to work on and when they want to work. And that's amazingly powerful. I think that the other thing we're seeing is that workers are able to increase the level and start to work on more and more complex tasks. And that we see a lot, particularly in transcription and editing and writing tasks. As workers get coaching and have feedback provided to them, they're actually able to take on larger and larger tasks. And so we are definitely seeing that it's a learning model. It's a very iterative process. And I think those are two really important ways that this changes the game for workers. And one of the things that we're seeing as a result of this is that workers who have largely been excluded from a traditional work environment, for instance, stay-at-home moms, college students, retirees, people who don't want or can't make a commitment to 40 hours a week or 20 hours a week or a set schedule, actually now have flexibility to kind of jump in and jump out when they need to. So it actually allows them to continue to participate in a worker community and do it on their terms, selecting when to work, how long, how often, and what to work on. The community is very powerful. I think all of these crowdsourcing communities are very powerful, and workers vote with their feet. If they are not willing to do a piece of work for a given price point, they will go work for somebody else. And we see that all the time where a requester hasn't quite priced the work properly and needs to readjust it in order to get the quality of worker that they want to get. And I think that's really important because I think a lot of people look at any of these websites and they look at the work as it's advertised. But the advertised price isn't necessarily the price that ultimately will get the work done. I think it's important to note that the worker community really does have the ability to say no, and there is a lot of work available now, so they really do have other choices, and they use them.
The strength is you can instantly tap into this global workforce and solve all kinds of problems. But I guess the weakness is you don't know that labor force. So how do you address that issue? How do I know that what I'm going to get is going to be useful? How can I control quality and to ensure that I can actually, that at any price it's worth something to me?
Absolutely. Well, we, with Mechanical Turk, the way requesters can really engage with workers, and they can select which workers they want to work on their work. So there's a couple of different ways they can do that. We have some requesters who actually give workers a test and they qualify, are you able to do these example tasks and follow the instructions well, and are you good at my task? And they may give workers a test, and those are the workers that pass the test that they allow to do their work.
Is it an automated test? I mean, like basically, it can't be an essay test, right?
Actually, you'd be amazed. We do have, we do have people who ask them to, if it's a writing task ultimately that you want to test someone to do, we do have people requesters who will ask them to submit an essay as part of the test. But more often than not, the tests are really, multiple choice. They tend to be indicative of the task itself. And so yes, we do have requesters who set that up so that it's self-grading, and you either pass or you don't. Here's your grade, and if you get an 85, then maybe you can do my work. And so they're able to control that, and that's typically used by businesses that have somewhat unique qualifications that they need to make sure are met. A great example is we have a website that uses Mechanical Turk to categorize auto parts. And I know nothing about cars, as my husband would attest, but nor am I particularly interested in knowing more. But there are some car enthusiasts who do very well at these tests. And the test kind of sets your expectation. Like, in order to do well at this work, you have to do well at this test. And so it really is a very effective screening process. One of the other ways that businesses really are able to select their workers within Mechanical Turk is we actually provide tiers of workers. So we recently introduced Mechanical Turk Masters, which are elite groups of workers who are specialized and have demonstrated accuracy on specific types of work. And we have Mechanical Turk Masters in moderation, for instance, which is a very popular use case. And we also have Masters in categorization. And so that really allows a business to immediately tap into people who are already good at the core task. And if they want to further qualify them, that's certainly an option that they have, that they can take advantage of. So I think there's a lot of way to really specify and direct who your work is going to. And we certainly have businesses that have 5 or 10 workers, and that's all they're using, and they really have deep relationships with them, and they qualify their work so that it just goes to those workers, and they don't need a broader pool. But we also have many businesses that need thousands and thousands of workers, and they tend to use more of a test approach to that.
Is there anything that's particularly that people may not know or be surprised to discover about Amazon Mechanical Turk?
I think one of the things that that is perhaps understated is how many enterprise customers are really adopting crowdsourcing. And I think at Crowdopolis, this is interesting to hear, companies like GE, for instance, or Kimberly-Clark, and to see how they're using crowdsourcing. And with Mechanical Turk, we work with customers from small businesses to startups to enterprises, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth in the space in general. And I think that really is exciting to see that crowdsourcing has matured, and Mechanical Turk in particular has matured to the point where enterprises are really relying on it for core operations. And I think that's it's a great trend, and I think most of the time crowdsourcing doesn't, most of our customers, for instance, don't want to necessarily advertise that they're using crowdsourcing, because they do really believe it's a secret sauce. And so I think because of that, it's not necessarily viewed as broadly used as it really is. So
in other words, a lot more people are using Amazon Mechanical Turk than they're letting on.
Well, I think in general in crowdsourcing, I think across the board, but certainly with Mechanical Turk, we have a lot of companies that really view this as a way for them to get ahead of their competition.